Hello and welcome back to DarkTales. Today, we and Oppos, re-diving once again into the world of urban legends, stories that blur the line between fact and fiction, passed down through generations and haunting countless minds. Hidden in the shadows and fueled by human imagination, these legends are filled with mystery and terror. Some are rooted in real events, while others are born from our deepest fears. Yet they continue to spread, leaving anyone who hears them with chills. In this video, we and Oppos, explore three of the most infamous urban legends: the Black-Eyed Children of the United States and the United Kingdom, the haunted 727 Tran Hung Dao apartment building in Saigon, and Polybius, the mysterious arcade game rumored to have been cursed during the 1980s. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare to step into the darkness, where these unsettling stories await. Let me tell you about an incident that took place late one night in 1996, in the town of Abilene, Texas. A man named Brian Bethel, a local newspaper reporter, was sitting alone in his car outside a movie theater, writing a check to pay his phone bill. The night was so eerily quiet that it sent chills down his spine. He had a strong feeling that something wasn't in Oppos. Right. Then Bethel noticed two young boys standing just outside his driver and Oppos' side window. They looked to be around 9 to 12 years old and were dressed in ordinary clothes. One of them politely explained that they wanted to see a movie but had forgotten their money at home. They asked if he could give them a ride back to their mother in Oppos' house so they could get enough cash to buy tickets. But something didn't in Oppos' add up. The movie they mentioned had already started nearly an hour earlier. It was far too late to be arriving for the beginning of the show. Even stranger was the way the boys spoke. Their voices didn't in Oppos' sound like children in Oppos' at all. They were calm, flat, and unnaturally steady, more like adults pretending to be kids. A cold shiver ran down Bethel and Oppos' spine. His sense of dread only grew stronger as the two boys kept insisting, and quote, "Please, let us into your car," and quote. The boys kept insisting, saying, and quote, "Just crack the door open a little. We only need to use your phone to call home," and quote. They even added, and quote, "We Don and Oppos, have any weapons?" and quote. That last statement terrified Bethel even more. No one had accused them of being armed, yet they felt the need to say it. After a tense internal struggle, Bethel glanced down and suddenly froze. Under the dim yellow glow of the streetlights, he saw the boys and Oppos' eyes clearly. They were completely black. There were no whites, no pupils, no reflections. Just endless darkness, like the empty eye sockets of something inhuman. Overcome with fear, Bethel threw the car into gear, slammed on the gas, backed away, and sped off without hesitation. For just a split second, he looked into his rearview mirror. The two strange children were gone. They had vanished without leaving a single trace. In 1996, Brian Bethel shared this terrifying encounter online and later published it in the Abilene Reporter News, his local newspaper. His story quickly spread across the internet and became one of the earliest and most iconic creepypastas of the internet age. After Bethel and Oppos' experience, similar reports of the Black-Eyed Children began appearing across both the United States and the United Kingdom. In 2012, Bethel even appeared on television to recount the incident himself, insisting that everything he experienced was real. Regardless of whether his story was true, the rapid spread of the Black-Eyed Children phenomenon online transformed it into a modern urban legend, spawning countless variations and terrifying theories about the origin of these mysterious children. So, what exactly are the Black-Eyed Children? According to eyewitness accounts, they usually appear to be between 6 and 16 years old. Their skin is unnaturally pale, and their eyes are completely black, with no visible whites or pupils. They almost always appear at night in isolated places. Sometimes they stand outside people and Oppos' homes. Other times they approach parked cars and ask for a ride. The most unsettling detail is that they always beg to be invited inside, as if they cannot enter a home or vehicle unless they are given permission. Many people have compared this detail to ancient vampire and demon folklore, where evil beings must first be invited into a home before they can harm the people inside. At first, the black-eyed children speak politely and calmly. They might ask to use a phone, request a glass of water, or simply ask for a ride. But if the homeowner hesitates, they begin repeating the request over and over. Their voices gradually become colder, more demanding, and almost commanding, completely at odds with their innocent appearance. Many stories claim that when they are refused entry, the children start pounding violently on the door or screaming in anger. Yet, if the homeowner refuses to let them in, the same thing always seems to happen. A short while later, they and Oppos, gone. They simply disappear into the darkness without a trace. So what do these children want from humans? To this day, no one knows for certain. One theory suggests that they are manifestations of death itself, disguised as children, exploiting the natural instinct people have to trust and lower their guard around young kids before bringing disaster upon them. Others believe the black-eyed children may actually be demons, modern-day vampires, or even extraterrestrials disguised as human children. In 2014, a British tabloid fueled the phenomenon even further by publishing a series of articles claiming that sightings of black-eyed children were occurring all over the world. The stories caused a public stir, prompting paranormal investigators to collect eyewitness accounts. Theories quickly multiplied. Some believed they were restless spirits. Others claimed they were teenage vampires, or even alien entities disguising themselves as children to study humans. However, all of these remain nothing more than rumors and speculation. To this day, there is no scientific evidence or verified photograph proving the existence of the black-eyed children. Paranormal author Sharon A. Hill investigated the phenomenon herself but found no reliable documentation. She concluded that these stories are largely spread through word of mouth, much like countless other frightening pieces of folklore. The black-eyed children are most likely nothing more than a product of imagination and fear spreading from person to person. A modern horror story that satisfies humanity and Oppos' fascination with the unknown. In the heart of bustling Saigon stands an abandoned building wrapped in one of the city and Oppos' darkest legends. 727 Tran Hung Dao Apartment Building. Originally built in 1960 as the luxurious President Building Hotel, the 13-story structure contained more than 530 rooms and was once considered a symbol of South Vietnam and Oppos' modern architecture. But after more than half a century, the once impressive building has been reduced to a decaying shell, waiting for demolition. More importantly, it has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted places in Saigon. Even during the Vietnam War, countless mysterious stories surrounded 727 Tran Hung Dao. The most chilling legend tells of a bloody ritual performed when construction reached the 13th floor. According to the story, the project was plagued by a string of deadly accidents. Construction workers fell from scaffolding. Others were electrocuted and killed. No matter what they tried, work on the 13th floor could never be completed. The building and Oppos' owner, businessman Nguyen Tan Doi, became so concerned that he summoned powerful spiritual masters to perform a ritual meant to break the curse. According to elderly residents of Cholon, the ritual involved purchasing the bodies of 4 young virgin women and burying them beneath the 4 corners of the building in Oppos' foundation as a supernatural offering to ensure the project and Oppos' completion. An elderly local named Lu Phuc Chan, who lived near the hotel at the time, later recalled that rumors of the buried bodies spread throughout the neighborhood, turning the President Building into the center of countless eerie conversations. Strangely enough, after the ritual, construction was completed and the building officially opened. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military leased the entire 13-story building as a recreation and lodging facility for American soldiers. But one mysterious detail stood out. The entire 13th floor was never used. It remained locked and abandoned, while the 12th floor was converted into a bar and entertainment club for U.S. troops. Could this have been where the restless spirits of the war first began to linger? After 1975, the building was taken over by the government and converted into apartments for government employees and workers. For years, hundreds of families lived there. But as time passed, stories of paranormal activity only became more widespread. Residents claimed the building had been cursed, its halls saturated with dark spiritual energy. They believed the spirits of the 4 sacrificed young women, and the construction workers who died during the building and Oppo's construction, still wandered its corridors. Countless ghost stories followed. Some claimed they heard children crying from the ground floor in the middle of the night. Others reported the sound of heavy marching footsteps echoing across the 12th floor, as if soldiers were still parading through the building. Some even swore they heard a young woman sobbing from the abandoned 13th floor. Many insisted they had seen white or dark shadowy figures darting through the stairwells before disappearing into the darkness. Another well-known legend revolves around ghost money. An elderly woman who once ran a small drink stand outside 727 Tran Hung Dao claimed that every Lunar New Year, full moon, or new moon night, she would unknowingly receive offerings for the dead Joss paper money, mixed in with the real cash paid by customers. Whenever she realized what had happened, she would immediately burn the ghost money. Later, she noticed that a young woman regularly came to buy orange juice on every full moon and new moon, always paying with a 10,000 dong bill. The bill felt ice cold. She kept it separate from the rest of her money. But when she returned home, it had transformed into Joss paper. She eventually learned that the young woman had supposedly died in the apartment building years earlier. According to local rumors, the woman had been assaulted, driven to despair, and taken her own life. Her spirit was said to remain trapped inside the building. People warned the elderly vendor that if she continued accepting the ghost money, she might become the spirit and Oppo's replacement. Terrified, she soon packed up her stall and moved away. Years later, a group of young journalists entered 727 Tran Hung Dao to investigate whether the haunting stories were true. When they mentioned that they wanted to explore the abandoned upper floors, a nearby drink vendor immediately panicked and begged them not to go. She warned them, and quote, "Go ahead if you want. But if you go up there, Don and Oppo's, be surprised if a ghost follows you home. You could even lose your mind. This place used to be full of people, but they kept getting haunted until everyone moved away." And quote, ignoring the warning, the journalists entered the building anyway. The moment they stepped inside, they were overwhelmed by the atmosphere. The air was cold and suffocating. The stench of rotting garbage, mold, and even dead rats drifted through the deserted floors. The dim lights barely illuminated the hallways. Beyond them stretched long, pitch-black corridors with no sign of another person, only the sound of dripping water and the wind howling through broken windows. Even without seeing a single ghost, the overwhelming sense of decay was enough to make anyone shiver. Just as the drink vendor had described, 727 Tran Hung Dao felt like a building abandoned by life itself. Everywhere they looked, there were signs that the structure was on the verge of collapse. The walls were cracked. Concrete was crumbling away, exposing rusted steel reinforcement bars. The main staircase was badly damaged, with broken steps and rainwater pooling throughout the hallways. From the darkness above, strange creaking sounds echoed down from time to time. No one could tell whether they came from old windows rattling in the wind, or from something else entirely. But was the truth really as terrifying as the legend suggested? Over the years, nearly all of the residents of 727 Tran Hung Dao were relocated by the Ho Chi Minh city government because the building had become structurally unsafe. Only a handful of families chose to remain. City officials confirmed that the apartment complex had deteriorated beyond repair and needed to be demolished. People Warren and Oppo's leaving because they feared ghosts. They were leaving because the building itself had become dangerously unstable. In reality, life inside this so-called haunted apartment building was far more ordinary than the rumors suggested. Nguyen Van Dung, the man responsible for maintaining the building and Oppo's water pumps for more than 30 years, firmly dismissed the ghost stories. And quote, "I walk through every floor every night checking the water pumps, and I and Oppo's never seen a ghost. The building is simply old, falling apart, and filthy. That and Oppo's why people Don and Oppo's want to live here anymore." And quote, Tran Kim Nok, who had lived there since 1977, laughed when asked about the hauntings. And quote, People only started spreading those ghost stories after the building was scheduled for demolition and residents began moving out. We and Oppos. V lived here for decades and never saw a single ghost. Living ghosts? Sure. Prostitutes, drug users, and thieves, there were plenty of those. Sometimes people caught a glimpse of someone in the shadows, let their imagination run wild, and started screaming that they and Oppos. D seen a ghost? And quote, indeed, many of the mysterious figures reported inside the building were most likely homeless people seeking shelter, drug addicts hiding inside, or thieves lurking in the darkness. Eventually, after decades of frightening rumors, 727 Tran Hung Dao apartment building was demolished, erasing one of the city and Oppos' darkest landmarks. But the ghost stories surrounding it have never truly disappeared. From the legend of the 4 sacrificed virgins, to the spirits of American soldiers, to the ghosts of young women and crying children, all of these stories transformed a crumbling apartment building into one of Saigon and Oppos' most famous urban legends. More importantly, they reveal the incredible power of collective fear. Sometimes, all it takes is a few rumors in a dark and abandoned place for the human imagination to create countless terrifying details of its own. Perhaps the most frightening ghosts of all are not supernatural beings, but the fear, obsession, and imagination that take hold of us when we stand before places touched by death. Our final legend takes us back to the United States in the early 1980s, during the golden age of arcade gaming. This is a story that lies somewhere between fact and fiction, a conspiracy wrapped in mystery. It is the legend of Polybius, the mysterious arcade game that was rumored to be a psychological weapon created by the government to secretly experiment on its players. Imagine it and Oppos' The fall of 1981. In a dimly lit corner of an arcade in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon, a strange arcade cabinet suddenly appears, one that no one has ever seen before. The cabinet is completely black, with none of the colorful artwork or flashy designs that arcade games were known for at the time. On its screen, only a single glowing green word appears: Polybius. Beneath it is a copyright notice reading and quote, 1981 Sinneslöschen and quote, credited to a mysterious German company that no one has ever heard of. Ironically, that air of mystery only makes people more curious. Teenagers from all over the area flock to the arcade to try it. First, they and Oppos. Re-amazed, Polybius offers something unlike anything they and Oppos V ever played before. A fast-paced shooter with abstract geometric graphics, hypnotic sound effects, and flashing visuals that seem almost mesmerizing. The game quickly becomes a sensation. Long lines form every day. Players even shove and fight each other just for a chance to play, because the game seems to be strangely addictive. Then, the horrifying stories begin. Only days after its debut, some players reportedly begin experiencing disturbing physical and psychological symptoms. During the day, they suffer episodes of temporary memory loss. At night, they become restless, unable to sleep, and plagued by terrifying nightmares filled with images from the game. Some fall into unexplained panic attacks. Others spiral into severe psychological distress after playing. At the height of the rumors, people even claim that several teenagers mysteriously disappeared after spending too much time with the machine. Around the same time, witnesses report seeing mysterious men dressed entirely in black visiting the Polybius cabinet late at night. Expressionless, wearing dark sunglasses. According to the stories, they would unlock the machine, retrieve some kind of data from inside, then leave without saying a single word. From that point on, the legend of the men in black became inseparable from Polybius. Arcade players began whispering that the U.S. government had secretly installed the game to monitor players and Oppos' neurological responses. Some claimed it was part of a highly classified experiment, possibly connected to the CIA and Oppos' infamous MKUltra mind control program. Then, just as mysteriously as it had appeared, the game vanished. Barely a month after arriving, every Polybius machine reportedly disappeared from arcades without a trace. It vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind countless unanswered questions. and a lingering sense of fear among local gamers. For nearly 20 years, the legend of Polybius faded into obscurity, surviving only as a chilling rumor shared among arcade enthusiasts. Then, on August 2, 1998, an anonymous article suddenly appeared on an arcade website called coinop.org, providing surprisingly detailed information about the mysterious game. The anonymous author claimed to possess leftover game data from Polybius and insisted the game had been real. According to the article, Polybius had been created as part of the CIA and Oppo's secret MKUltra experiments. It even included what appeared to be a screenshot of the game and Oppo's title screen displaying the words, end quote, copyright 1981 sinister, end quote. The article sent shockwaves through the retro gaming community. Collectors and enthusiasts began searching desperately for any evidence that Polybius had ever existed. People even started analyzing the name Sinneslaschen itself. In German, end quote, Sins, end quote, refers to the senses, while, end quote, Laschen, end quote, means to erase. Put together, the name roughly translates to, end quote, erasing the senses, end quote, a chilling detail that only fueled the mystery. Although no actual Polybius cabinet was ever found, the legend exploded across the internet. It inspired countless articles, YouTube videos, documentaries, movies, and even video games. 2 indie games titled Polybius, released in 2007 and 2017, openly borrowed ideas from the legend and promoted themselves as being inspired by the supposedly real arcade machine. The story also found its way into music, television, films, and performance art, becoming a symbol of both nostalgia and fear surrounding the arcade culture of the 1980s. But what is the truth behind Polybius? Did this mind-altering arcade machine ever really exist? Or was it simply one of the greatest hoaxes in gaming history? Numerous journalists and video game historians have investigated the mystery. Their conclusion is remarkably consistent. There is no credible evidence that Polybius ever existed. No gaming magazine or newspaper from the 1980s ever mentioned such a game. There is no record of any company named Sinneslaschen being registered in 1981. And, of course, no authentic Polybius arcade cabinet has ever been discovered. The most likely explanation is that Polybius is simply a modern urban legend, one created by combining several unrelated real events from the early 1980s into a single, unforgettable ghost story. Science writer Brian Dunning argues exactly that. According to Dunning, the Polybius legend was inspired by several real incidents that took place in Portland during 1981. One involved a teenager who played the arcade game Tempest for an extended period before suffering a seizure and collapsing, apparently triggered by the game and Oppo's flashing visuals, which caused a severe migraine. Another involved a player attempting a 28-hour asteroids marathon to break a high-score record. He developed intense stomach pain and was hospitalized afterward. Both incidents actually happened and were reported by local newspapers at the time. Coincidentally, during that same month in Portland, the FBI launched an operation targeting illegal gambling activities hidden inside certain arcades. Investigators suspected that some arcade owners had secretly installed illegal gambling devices inside game cabinets. Before making arrests, undercover FBI agents quietly visited arcades, observed suspicious machines, and installed monitoring equipment over the course of several days. From the outside, these agents looked no different from mysterious men lingering around arcade machines. In hindsight, these 2 real events may have unintentionally laid the foundation for the legend of Polybius. Further investigations later suggested that the 1998 post on coinop.org was most likely an intentional hoax. Virtually every piece of evidence points to Polybius being fictional. Some have even speculated that the owner of coinop.org, Kurt Kohler, created the Polybius story himself simply to drive traffic to his website. Even so, the true appeal of the Polybius legend has never depended on whether the game actually existed. What captivates people is the story itself. Anyone who grew up during the golden age of arcades can and Oppo's help but feel uneasy at the thought of a video game capable of manipulating, or even brainwashing, its players. In many ways, Polybius reflects the hidden anxieties of that era. People feared children becoming addicted to video games. They feared that the new flashing visual effects might damage the brain. And above all, they feared being secretly manipulated by unseen forces. In the early 1980s, American newspapers regularly published stories warning about children suffering seizures after playing arcade games. Some reports even claimed that players had died suddenly while standing at arcade cabinets. One real incident often cited occurred in 1981, when a teenager named Jeff Daly collapsed and died after playing the arcade game Berserk, fueling rumors that the machine itself was cursed. Combine those fears with the long-standing American folklore surrounding the men in black mysterious figures in black suits said to conceal government secrets throughout the 1960s and Oppos, 70s and an Oppos, 80s and it and Oppos. It's easy to see how the public connected the dots and created a legend like Polybius. The three stories we and Oppos V explored today, the Black-Eyed Children, 727 Tran Hung Dao apartment building, and Polybius, may be very different in setting and subject matter, but they all have one thing in common. They are urban legends that reflect the fears and beliefs of the people who created them. So why do we invent and pass down stories like these? The answer lies deep within human psychology and culture. People naturally tell stories to explain what they cannot fully understand. When the truth is uncertain, supernatural tales often emerge to fill the gaps. Urban legends also survive because they entertain us and bring communities together through shared fears. After all, most of us have experienced that strange feeling of being terrified, yet unable to stop listening to a ghost story late at night. These legends spread from person to person. With every retelling, a few new details are added. Eventually, the story becomes something much larger than where it began. Perhaps we create urban legends because we want to believe there and Oppos S more to the world than what we can see. These stories reveal just how powerful human imagination can be. Even if the magic is terrifying, we still long to believe that somewhere beyond ordinary reality, something mysterious exists. That belief makes life more fascinating. It fuels our curiosity and our desire to explore the unknown. And maybe that and Oppos S the true purpose of urban legends. Sometimes knowing the complete truth ISN and Oppos T the most important thing. What matters most are the emotions and the unforgettable experience these stories leave behind. If you enjoyed today and Oppos S video, Don and Oppos T forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments what topic you and Oppos D like me to cover next. That and Oppos S all for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care and I and Oppos LL see you in the next video.